Welcome back to Andersen Acres. Today we're diving into one of the most exciting and rewarding parts of gardening, starting plants from seed. There's something magical about watching a tiny seed transform into a thriving flower or vegetable, and I want to walk you through the entire process. We'll talk about when to start from seed, the tools you'll need, how to prepare your soil, sow your seeds, keep them healthy, and eventually thin and care for your young plants. By the end, you'll feel confident about starting your own garden right from scratch. So first, let's start with the basics. You can grow annuals and perennials from seeds, or you can purchase plants that are already started from a nursery or a garden center. Buying plants is quicker, but it can get expensive, especially if you're filling large garden beds. So starting from seed is far more economical, though it takes more time, more effort, and a little bit of knowledge. It's worth noting that many hybrid perennials don't grow true to type from seed. That means you might not get the characteristics you're looking for if you plant seeds. Those types of plants are usually propagated through methods like root division or stem cuttings. But when it comes to annuals and a lot of different perennials, seeds are dependable and rewarding. Some plants even prefer being direct sown into the garden soil rather than transplanted later. So if you're planning to direct seed your plants, you'll want to gather a few basic tools before you get started. A rake for smoothing your soil, a water sprinkler for gentle watering, not one of those harsh, but a nice gentle, those are the best. And you're going to want seeds, obviously, and maybe a little bit of sand to help the even distribution of tinier seeds. You'll also want row cover material, burlap, or straw to help protect and retain moisture in your seeded area. And finally, a good pair of scissors will come in handy when it's time to thin out your seedlings. Now, don't worry, this is one of the easiest ways to get started in the garden. Think of it as a low barrier, beginner friendly method that will reward you with healthy plants and a really beautiful garden later down the line. So, the first real step is preparing your soil. Okay, you have to prepare your soil. You want to rake it smooth, make sure it's free of big clumps or rocks or debris or stuff that'll get in the way of your little plants. And if you're carpeting an area with plants, like a whole bed of flowers, you're going to scatter the seeds evenly across the surface. So you want that surface even and flat. If you're planting single plants or single seeds, place 3 to 5 seeds in each spot. Later, once the seedlings have developed their true leaves, their first set of true leaves, you'll start to thin them out and leave only the strongest, biggest one. For planting groups, sow 2 to 3 seeds of each plant you want, then thin as necessary once they sprout. The reason you overseed, so you seed more seeds than you need plants, is because not every single seed is going to germinate. No matter what the quality of seed are, how good they are, some of them are not going to germinate. And nothing's more annoying than realizing you planted 5 in a row and the 2 in the middle didn't grow. That's annoying. So if you seed more than one plant, you can just get rid of the extras that you don't want. And instead, you'll still, have that entire display that you were looking for and not be annoyed by the 2 in the middle that didn't grow. Okay? So just remember to put more seeds than you need. You don't need a ton at once. But, 3 to 5 seeds per little spot is a good idea. Now, if you're working with really small seeds like sweet alyssum, or poppies, those really tiny ones that look like little tiny grains of sand, really annoying seeds, make your life a little bit easier by mixing them with a teaspoon of dry sand. Okay? Just a little bit of dry sand. Just put your seeds in there, give it a mix it really well, because that'll help you distribute your seeds a little more evenly. That way you don't end up with clumps in one area and bare patches in another. Now, some seeds actually need light to germinate, so in that case, you're not going to cover them with soil. You're just going to press them firmly into the surface so they make good contact. You don't want them blowing away, but you do want to press them firmly into the soil and leave them exposed, okay? So let the sun hit them, water them down so that they're on that soil. You want them on that soil, but you do not want to cover them up, because some seeds do need light to germinate. Check the back of the seed package. It'll tell you that, Okay, it'll tell you if you only sprinkle them on the surface. Okay, so check. Larger seeds generally should be covered with a fine layer of soil so they're protected and have the right environment to sprout. Remember, when you're planting your seeds, do not go more than the depth of the seed down in the soil. So a pumpkin seed is yay big, right? So it can be planted that much below the soil. So you have that much soil on top of it. But something like a pepper seed is only yay big. So you only want that much soil on top of it. You don't want the plant to have to fight through several inches of soil just to emerge, because it's not going to make it. So make sure you're not overdoing the soil coverage, enough to keep the seed in place, enough to hide the seed from the birds or the chickens in our case, but not enough to, you know, bury the seedling so that it won't be able to get out there and sprout. All right. So let's move on to watering and germination, because you do need to water your plants. Unless you live in an area where you're getting rain all the time, you need to water your plants. So the key to success is to keep your seeds moist until they germinate. This might mean checking your garden several times a day, especially if it's hot or windy. You might actually have to go out there breakfast, lunch, dinner, before bed and make sure that your soil is not drying out. If it's windy or hot, it absolutely could. Okay, water gently and lightly, because you can always water more later. You don't want to drown your seeds. But a fine sprinkle is best when it comes to watering. You don't want to wash them away or dislodge them from where you put them. To conserve moisture, you can cover the seeded area with a thin layer of straw or row cover or burlap or something like that. Okay? You can water right through the material, and it will help protect your seeds while they're sprouting. It'll also help protect them from the birds. Once your seedlings are up and growing, you can remove the burlap or the row cover. Okay, no problem removing it. You just take it. Just take it out. It's fine. You just, when those babies are little teeny weeny little plants, hi whiskey. But when the babies are tiny weeny little plants, you want to give them a little bit of cover. Just so, one, your chickens don't invade your garden and eat all your seedlings. Wonder who that's happened to. Chickens. I can see the chickens. They're causing problems already. So now, when your plants reach a few inches tall, it's time to thin them out. That means snipping off the extra seedlings so that the remaining plants have enough space to grow. Use scissors for this instead of pulling the plants out. Pulling can disturb the roots of the ones you want to keep. Okay, literally just snip them off at the top of the soil. Don't be, because the roots might be intertwined. So just snip, don't do that. Okay. Even drought-tolerant plants need consistent watering while they're young and establishing themselves. So even if your plants are drought-tolerant, make sure they're getting watered and still thin them out as necessary. For perennials, you might need to water regularly throughout the first growing season until they're really well-rooted and deeply rooted. Once they're deeply rooted, then they tend not to need as much water for a perennial because they come back every year and those roots go nice and deep into the ground. They'll find water if it's there to find. Okay. Now, it might feel a little weird to snip away healthy seedlings. Okay. I know when you sit down to thin them out, it might feel a little weird. You might feel almost guilty about cutting away the seedlings that are underpowered, right? The little ones, the ones that you really should snip. You might feel bad about it, and that's normal. But remember, thinning makes for stronger, healthier plants in the long run. It's okay to pull a few of the, to snip off a few of the seedlings that are just not as strong. It's okay to do that. It's good for the healthier plants. Okay? It's good for them. Long term, it'll do your garden good. So now I want to talk about what flowers are really good candidates for direct seeding, because a lot of seeds actually want to be directly sown into the ground. They don't want to be started indoors. So direct seeding. A few reliable choices are things like bachelor's button, blanket flower, cosmos, larkspur, lupine. Lupine's a good one for planting directly in the ground. Mexican sunflower, marigold, morning glory. Yes, morning glory likes to be sown directly. I'm trying to do this alphabetical. Nasturtium. I might get the alphabet Not quite right. I don't always know my alphabet. Stalks. One of the poppies, Shirley poppies, I think. Sunflower and strawflower. Sweet alyssum, I think. Yes, I believe so. Sweet pea and zinnia like to be sown directly in the ground. Okay, some do better if they're started in a hothouse indoors, but some of the plants I just talked about, the flowers I just talked about, they do better sown directly. The same goes for vegetables like a carrot seed. Carrots and other root vegetables prefer to be sown directly in the soil. So if you have carrot seeds or beet seeds or radish seeds, directly in the soil tends to be where you want them. They just do better, they thrive. So these are tried and true plants that germinate well when planted directly in the soil, and it makes them perfect for beginners and anyone wanting, in the case of the flowers, a colorful, vibrant garden without too much fuss. And that's basically it, okay? That was a step-by-step guide for starting your garden from seed. It's very easy to do. From prepping your soil to sowing to watering to thinning, caring for your seedlings, all of that stuff is important, but it's relatively simple, right? Start a schedule. Be like, okay, I'm going to go out and I'm going to water my seedlings 3 times a day. Just if you have a schedule, it's easier to keep to. And remember, the green thumb thing is kind of a myth. Anyone can learn to look after a plant. It takes a little bit of dedication, a little bit of figuring it out. I used to not be able to grow anything. I used to kill everything I tried to grow, and that wasn't fair. These days, I am so much better at it. My tomatoes thrive. My potatoes are fantastic. My flowers are beautiful. So it's all about figuring it out and figuring out which plants grow the way you tend. So if you have really high maintenance plants, but you're not a person that wants to do the high maintenance, maybe get something a little easier to look after. It's just better, right? So now you have the tools to create a thriving garden full of flowers or vegetables or whatever way you lean. That's about it for us here today at Andersen Acres. Do you have a favorite flower or a vegetable you love to start from seed? Drop a comment below and let me know what grows best in your garden where you live. Thanks so much for joining me. We'll see you tomorrow.